Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this another Star Wars Shatterpoint Beginner's Guide, the series where we take the entire rulebook and have put it into a video format to hopefully make it that much easier for you guys to learn all the rules ready for when the core box is released. And maybe you've already got your hands on a core box. Maybe your local gaming store has already got their hands on a core box. Let me know down in the comment section below. Well, we've made it, guys. Final episode, episode 10, we're going to be talking about wounded and injured and what it means in this game, because these are two terms that are very, very different and they work very, very differently, at least to any other games that I've played. And there may be a couple of things in here that do catch you out. So let's first of all start then and take a look at what it means to be wounded and injured and some of the things that we need to consider about it. So the first thing we need to look at when we talk about wounds and we talk about injuries is stamina and durability. So if we look at a character's stat card, there are two little numbers in the bottom right hand corner. We have the top one, which is going to determine how much stamina a character has. So this is the amount of damage that a unit, sorry, not a character, a unit can take before it becomes wounded. And then we have durability, which are the number of injured tokens, and again it sounds a little bit strange, but injured tokens a character can have before being removed from the battlefield. But there is a little bit of a gotcha, so we will go into that as well. So first of all, let's talk about how a character becomes wounded. So when a unit has a number of damage tokens equal to or greater than its stamina, it immediately becomes wounded. So let's take a look then at these Mandalorian super commandos. We can see there that they have got a stamina of 8. So if they take 8 damage tokens, they are going to receive themselves a wounded token. Now, when a unit becomes wounded, the opposing player adds 1 momentum token to the struggle tracker. Now, that can be wounded from absolutely anything. We still haven't yet had clarification on what is going to be deemed as enemy effects and neutral effects. We're really talking about that strain there. The only sort of equivalent we have in MCP is a bleed, which is something that does a damage. It works differently, but the idea being is that it's something that's applied to you, but in MCP, bleed is not an enemy effect, it's a neutral effect. So we don't know if strain is going to be neutral or enemy. I've checked, I couldn't find it anywhere. If I do find it, I'll pin it in this. But ultimately, it doesn't matter when becoming wounded. Whenever a character becomes wounded for whatever reason, whether it's self-inflicted or any other reason, then that character, or the opposing player, sorry, is going to gain a momentum on the struggle tracker. Now, it's only 1 momentum for the unit, so if they were a support unit, and we have to remember support units like the Super Mandalorian or the Mandalorian Super Commandos do share that stamina pool. So when one of them becomes wounded, the other one becomes wounded as well, even if that other one is completely other side of the board and it's taken, no damage tokens whatsoever. They're shared, so they in effect have. Now, if a unit would become wounded during its activation immediately ends. So talking about that strain, maybe it's a riposte trigger, maybe it's Jango Fett, who when you activate within range 3 of him, he gets to roll those 5 dice and can do up to 5 damage. So a little bit like what we have in MCP. During your activation, if the unit you are activating becomes wounded, then that activation and then indeed your turn immediately ends. So really, really important to make sure that you don't get wounded when you're actually activating a character. So let's take a look then at being wounded and what it means for a unit when they are indeed wounded. Now, this is one that I think caused a little bit of confusion, especially in the early days. People have started to work it out now, but there's actually 2 things that happens to a unit when it is wounded. First of all, a wounded unit cannot be engaged with an enemy character. Now, if you remember when we did our making attacks videos and all those sorts of things, we went into detail around melee attacks and things like that, but it also stops you or stops other characters being able to make full advances out or climbs and things like that. But a wounded character is never considered to be engaged. And then secondly, a wounded unit cannot contest objectives. I know I keep saying unit and character and mixing the two up. Just know that for the most part, I'm meaning unit, and I'll correct myself if I do remember. So let's take a look at a quick example then. Here in this example, we have got the 501st Trooper who was already in control of that objective. You can see it's been flipped to the yellow. The Mandalorian Super Commando has moved up, but because they don't have twice the number of characters contesting, I did mean characters on that one, then they're not going to be able to flip that point. However, we do have a Lord Maul turning up. Now he's going to do a attack. Pick whichever attack you want. If you want to watch how attacks work, go and take a look at the other video. But ultimately, he is going to wound that 501st character, which then in turn wounds the entire unit. So that means that they are going to get one of those wound tokens. Now, what does that do? Well, it frees up two things. First of all, it means that Lord Maul is now free to do a full advance and move away and go to somewhere else on the board. It also means that at the end of this particular activation, the Mandalorian Super Commando is now the only character contesting that objective. Therefore, it will flip to being a red objective, and the red team will score the VPs for it. Now, a unit with a wounded token can use active abilities, reactive abilities, but they have to pay one additional force for each wound that it has. So let's take a quick look at the 501st Clone Troopers. So you can see here that they have a reactive ability called Coordinated Fire, which normally has a force cost of 0. But because they have taken that wound, that force cost is going to go from 0 up to 1. But even whilst they have a wounded token on them, they're still going to be able to use that coordinated fire if somebody else makes the attack and they meet all of the other criteria that is needed. You can even attack wounded characters, so characters that already have the full number of damage on them and things like that, you can attack them again. It may be that you want to trigger some things on your stance card, maybe some heals that are on there or some positional things. Maybe it's a big character that's down and you want to put some more conditions on them. There's definitely some niche cases where that could be a thing. So just be aware that even when a character is wounded, it can still both be targeted by attacks and indeed it can do things itself, both from its own active and reactive abilities, but it can also be the target of those active and reactive abilities as well, from other players or from your opponent player, or indeed from other units that you've got, support units. And so people like Kalani who can trigger battle droids can still make attacks when they are wounded. So just something to be aware of. When they're wounded, it's not like in MCP where they're dazed and they're effectively a size 1 piece of terrain that does nothing. I'd like to take a minute to thank the brand new sponsor of the channel, Loyalist Games. Loyalist are a great local gaming store in West Yorkshire. They stock all of your favourite MCP and Shatterpoint products, plus a huge range of other gaming systems. They also have an awesome gaming space where weekly events are held. We've already been running our MCP League that's coming into its 4th season. We've hosted a number of MCP events and we'll be doing so for Shatterpoint as well. So hopefully we can see you guys there at some of the events in the future. There'll be a link down in the description below, and if you're looking for a place to get all of your hobbying purchases at a great price, then look no further than Loyalist Games. Let's then move on to becoming injured. So when does a unit become injured? Well, at the beginning of a wounded unit's activation, it flips its wounded token to injured, removes all damage and 1 condition, so it does not remove all special conditions that are on it. It only gets to choose 1. Let's go back to our Mandalorian super commandos from the first example. We know they've got a wounded token on them, and they've got that 8 damage. But let's say we put some additional conditions on there as well. So we've got a pin, a expose, and a disarm. So they're going to activate. So they need to flip that token to an injured token. They get to remove all of their damage, and they get to choose one of their special conditions to remove. So in this instance, let's remove the disarm, let's say. An injured unit can contest and can engage enemy characters. So the moment that you flip that wounded to injured, this character now is acting completely normal. Everything that a non-wounded, non-injured character can do, this character can do as well. But they must pay 1 additional force power to use active and reactive abilities. So once again, if we look at the options that we've got here, so the jetpack that cost 1 is now going to cost 2, but they can still use it. Mandalorians are stronger together, had an initial cost of 0, so that goes up to 1. But then if we look at No Mercy, which is a innate ability, and also a Victory or Death, which is an innate ability, they're going to be able to use those at 0 cost because innate abilities never have a cost attached to them. It's also worth pointing out that we also include any tactic abilities and also any identity abilities on there as well. So they never have a force cost, so they don't go up in 1. So lastly, guys, let's talk about what happens when a unit is defeated and how a unit actually becomes defeated, because again, it may work slightly differently to how you expect, because it's definitely different to other games that are out there. So after a unit activation, if the unit has injured tokens equal to or exceeding, I'm not sure how they can get more, but maybe that's something in the future, its durability, it is defeated. So let's take a look then at the Mandalorian Super Commandos again. So again, the actual durability of a character is this little bottom right hand number here with a sort of little heart rate monitor. And once again, if it has taken those 2, because they have 2 durability, so those 2 injured tokens, then at the end of its turn, it's going to be defeated. But remember, it is at the end of its turn. So when you put a second wound token on these guys, they're going to get that last hurrah, that last activation. So once that's all done, then a defeated unit is removed from the battlefield and take no further part in the game. There is a window of opportunity here because they can score VPs on their last activation, because that happens before they're actually taken off the board. And then a defeated unit's order card is then removed if it is outside the order deck. So if it's in reserve or if it's on the discard pile, you just take it out. Or when it is next revealed from the order deck. So you may have activated with something else, so maybe the Shatterpoint card or something like that. It's then removed and another card is drawn in its place, but you don't need to spend that extra power. You just turn it over if you've got it, put it into the discard pile, and then just take another order card. So there we go, guys. That is everything you need to know about being injured, being wounded, being defeated at the very, very end. And I will say that in all the games that I've played so far, and probably racked up 25, 30 games of Shatterpoint now, very, very few times are units actually removed from the battlefield. It's a great way to cause them some problems with force power. So especially some of them like Mandalorians and things like that, where they're wanting to use a lot of these active and reactive abilities. Going through that force power, it really makes your opponent question whether or not they want to actually use that power or save it for one of their bigger characters. So really, really crippling their economy, but it's not how you're going to win the game. Taking units off this board, off the tabletop, is not how you're going to win the game of Shatterpoint. It's all about scoring VPs. But there we go, guys. That is the beginner series completely finished now, unless you can think of anything else that you'd like me to do a video on that we haven't covered in these previous 10 episodes. So if there is, let me know down in the comment section below. Now, you may remember, guys, at the beginning of the video, I did mention we were going to be doing another giveaway, and we're going to be giving away the You Cannot Run Dual Pack. What's the trigger for this going to be? Well, as we are quickly approaching 5,000 subscribers, to celebrate getting to 5,000 subscribers, as soon as we hit that mark, we will be giving away the Shatterpoint You Cannot Run Dual Pack. This is really cool. It was announced as part of the, a little bit early, May the 4th celebrations, but it is some cross-era characters. So we've got a cross-era Darth Vader, and we've got a cross-era, and I said Anakin then, I suppose it is Anakin, but a cross-era Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're going to be completely different cards to the other characters that will be getting released. It comes on this absolutely gorgeous diorama. It's a scene taken straight from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, if you've seen that. I think it looks really cool, and as I mentioned, we are going to be giving one away, and all you need to do, guys, is just make sure that you've hit that subscribe button. All we're asking is that you've hit that subscribe button, and we'll be picking one of our subscribers at random, and that lucky subscriber will win the You Cannot Run Dual Pack. Just a quick note on that, you do want to make sure that you've made your subscriptions public. I can go in and look, but unless you've made it public, I can't see them. So if you've hidden your subscription, you won't be entered into it. So that's all you need to do, and the trigger for this will be when we do hit that 5,000 subscriber mark. Guys, if you could leave a like on the video, it really does help, and if you do want to support the channel even further, we do have our Patreon now, where from as little as £1 a month you can help support the channel. Also, another big shout out to loyalist Games, the brand new sponsor of the channel, and a big shout out to Neil over there for helping the channel out with all of its hobbying needs. And if you guys need somewhere to buy your hobbying stuff, be sure to go and check them out. There'll be a link down in the description below. We've got our Discord up and running, guys. There's nearly 900 people on there now. There's a dedicated Shatterpoint part on there as well. We are now starting to run a monthly Shatterpoint event as well. There's lots of people on there who are giving demo games and all sorts of stuff like that, so be sure to head on over and to check that out. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, may the Force be with you.